ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in today. This is episode 11. All right, 11 weeks we've been at it, making sure we bring you guys the good news, giving you guys a good show, entertainment for you guys to be able to not only enjoy us, but learn a little something along the way. Ladies and gentlemen, today we have our similar crew, all right, with an additional person that's going to be joining us today. All right, we have Leslie from North Elizabeth.
Hey guys.
We have Christina from School Bridge Mora.
Hey.
We have Raul, who at the moment he is behind closed doors, but he's still here from Bridge, represented Bridge 23. Say what's good, my boy.
What's up, guys? Love y'all. Miss y'all.
All right, and we have a special guest today representing the Bridge Midtown. All right, that doesn't exist right now, but representing it from back in the day. The one and only, the first director that was a youth and became the director of Bridge Midtown, the legendary, the one and only Elliot Johnson. Elliot, say what's up.
Woo woo! What's up, everybody? Good to be here. Love y'all.
And the man behind the curtain, the one who makes sure everything goes on smoothly, the boss, William Hartz.
Yeah.
Hello, everybody.
Well, guys, today is a very special show. A show that is one that has been heavy pressed in my heart. It's to the point where we're skipping everything and going straight to the details of what's happening. It's been a horrible week for America this last week, and for good reasons. You know, it's a lot of sadness that has been happening and happening throughout our nation. A lot of division, and our number one job here in this particular show is to speak to the truth of all that. All right, to talk about what is happening to people's hearts, and to bring Jesus into that picture. What would Jesus look at when he's looking at this particular picture? How would he feel about this particular situation, and what would Jesus do to combat this particular situation? So, you know, as everybody knows, if you've been following on social media, if you're listening to the news, if you've been looking at what has been happening around the world, once again, an African American has been murdered in the hands of our police officers for things that could have 100% be avoided. The news article over in CNN says that Floyd. Let me just pull it up real quick. Floyd, a 46-year-old black man, died after pleading for help as police officer used his knee on Floyd's neck to pin him, unarmed and handcuffed to the ground. His death sparked outrage and protests across the country, demonstrations that continue until Thursday. All right. So here we have George Floyd, 46-year-old African American man, who was accused of, we're still trying to get the details exactly why he was being arrested. But according to what we do know is that he's apparently he tried to use a bill that was like a fake bill to purchase some items. The cops pretty much pulled him over, asked him questions, took him out the vehicle, and then ended up, for some reason, end up on the floor, and with the cop's knee on top of his neck. For about 9 minutes, the police officer had his knee on George's neck, and had his knee on George's neck, and then while he's crying for help and asking for extra breath of air, the police officer pretty much ignored him. Here you have also in the video, pretty much people are asking or yelling at him, saying, "Hey, listen, he can't breathe. Like, can you get off of him?" And still, the police officer ignored the request and just allowed him to just continue to just sit there with a knee on his neck. After Mr. Floyd passed out, the police officer for an extra 3 minutes continued to have his knee on top of him, which then the police officers decided to call an ambulance, where he was then pretty much dead.
Pronounced, yeah.
Yep. So this is what we're going through, and I know every single one of us here, we've experienced just watching this story unfold. And my question to you guys that are in the panel today: what was your immediate reaction to the situation?
I think that my immediate reaction to the situation was anger. And the reason anger was the first emotion I felt is because, to me being an Afro Latino, identified as Black, I'm just like, this is something that we see too often, that it's become normalized. The fact that we've seen somebody get killed on national television, on social media, number one, is disrespectful to that man and his family to have to see that over and over and over. But it's also traumatizing to all of us who look just like him. And I think that my first emotion was definitely anger, very, very deep anger.
Anybody else?
I felt sick. Like seeing, I honestly, like I didn't watch the entire video because I can't like stomach it as bad. I know that that might sound bad, but literally like makes me want to vomit seeing that. And I still can't believe that it's 2020 and this is happening. Like what, 2 weeks ago, Aubrey, right, was killed, right? It's like it's happening way too much, way too often. And it's just, it's sickening. It's sickening.
Just you reading the article, like it's like, when that unsettling feeling of anxiety starts to creep in.
Yeah.
It's just like, it's a very overwhelming feeling. Like, I don't even think that there's a word to put for it. It's just like, I don't understand how it even, like, how someone, like, how does that even happen? Like, how do you just stand there and like allow that to happen? I don't know. It's like it's not a good feeling.
Yeah.
I was sad. Like I just felt like a sadness. I felt the anger too, and I just felt like just a sadness. Like I just felt, looking at the whole video and looking at what's actually happening. I mean, you're watching a man die, right in front of you.
Yeah, basically.
And you're seeing that, and it's something that it's like, that pulls something out of you. And I felt that. I felt a sadness. I felt a frustration. I felt like, like why is this happening? What is in this very moment right now? Like, why is this happening to that man? And it broke my heart. It still breaks my heart. I've felt heartbroken this whole week about all this and what has come before in the past several weeks too. And then, even before all that. So it's mounting on each other. It's a heartbreak that I feel.
Like for me personally, I felt like I was angry, because to me it's getting old.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I'm tired of it. I'm tired of seeing the same news talking about another person who was detained for small crimes or even big. It doesn't matter the crime at the particular moment. You feel me? But the fact that they ended up having to lose their life on something that could have been avoided by just basic policing,
Right.
it's frustrating and it gets old, and and just like I only saw the video once and I can't see it again. I see little clips of it, little small bits of it, when I watch the news and just they show a little bit of it, but I couldn't see the whole entire video. I only saw the whole entire video once. And even then I had to shut it off because it was just it was sickening. It was frustrating. Like I saw my uncles there. I saw like my brother there. I saw so many things to the point where it's like it's getting old and it's annoying. You know what I'm saying? And it's heartbreaking. You feel me? It's like how many times do we have to continue to watch that? And it hurts. And it does something to your psyche. It does something to your mind, which is something that we're going to be talking about today, and how to combat that and how to allow Jesus to overcome these thoughts that could be creeping over our minds. But but it hurts a lot, to continue to watch it. I mean, you could ask my wife. I've been off for the last like 3 days because of the situation, and for many reasons. My dreams. I have horrible dreams. Like last night, I had a dream that a family member that's extremely close to me was being arrested. And it's the stuff that I know for a fact that not only am I dealing with, but I know that millions of people in the United States of America who live here as citizens of this country, the land of the free, where we come in here and we contribute to its economy. We contribute to everything that has to do to make America continue to go well. We contribute to its military, contribute to everything, and what we all suffer, we think about. And I guess the purest term that I've been feeling for the last couple of days is I guess is anger and exhaustion. Like it's getting old. Like I'm tired of seeing this kind of things. But unfortunately, this is the reality that we are seeing. And it's one of those things where what are we to do with what we are feeling, what we are responding? What do you think? What is the best? So Elliot, you work in, you are a teacher in the city of Elizabeth. You are a African American man who is also you're half white, and so you are literally, you play both sides, you see both sides, you understand what's happening. Like what is your feeling about what is this, what is the situation that is happening? What is your reaction to it, and what do you think is the pretty much the best way to combat this particular situation?
So, you know, I feel you on how you have almost like a feeling of like there's like despair, right? Like I feel like, and I feel like that too, because it's something, you look at this and you're just like, okay, like what can we do about it? And it almost seems like it's so big, it's like almost like it's too much, like what can just little old me do about it? And it's funny because one thing I do when I'm teaching American history with my students is that, we talk about like the civil rights movement, right? And the names come up, Rosa Parks and Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X and all these, famous people throughout time. But I always like to remind them is that the civil rights movement like didn't end. Like it didn't end. Like people are still fighting for their rights. People are still all those things that happened in the 50s and the 60s and 70s. Obviously, that's a foundation, but it still keeps going. And one of the things that Dr. King wrote, it was his last book that he wrote, and it said, "Where do we go from here, chaos or community?" That was his last book. That's the title. And it's one of those things where where he talks about, and I see this too, is the solution is something that is also bigger. And until we can see each other with value as fellow images of God, until we see each other as in that level of importance, until we see each other as a creation of God, we'll never arrive to the point where we can love one another and respect one another, because people still harbor feelings that certain people based on their skin color are superior than others. That's not from God. That's not from God at all. And, I tell my students that too. I said, you got to look at people with value. You got to look at people that as what they are, they have value. And, everything from the way you talk about people, the way you say things, like that all comes from a place of how you see somebody else, the words you use, things like that. So until that happens, we're going to see violence based on, racial hatred. We're going to see that.
Raul?
Oh, no, I was going to say, just to Elliot's point, that the goal is not to see color. That's not the goal. Mm-hmm. The goal is to see color, acknowledge it and love it, appreciate it, and say, how can I do to help you and to value your experience? Mm-hmm. That's the goal. I have a lot of people who've been online and posting and saying, hey, to all my Black friends, I just want to let you know I don't see color. You clearly do. You just said all my Black friends. You know what I'm saying? And I've seen that happen. Y'all
Congratulations,
laughing. Y'all know
you played yourself.
I'm laughing because I know it's.
To me, it's like, yo, y'all gotta really think about that, man, because it's like, yo, I don't want you not to see my color, because then you make me feel like my color is wrong.
My color like there's no problem.
You feel me? Like my color is intelligent. My color is amazing. I love my color, and I also love yours. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? So now let's acknowledge each other's color. our culture and move forward in love. You know what I'm saying? And so I just wanted to just add on to, you know, what Elliot was saying, as he made some great points, you know, but also we can't say like, oh, I don't see color. That's disrespectful, because I have a certain experience that I experience in America as a black man. And for you to say that you don't see my color means you don't see my experience.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So that's my
100%.
point.
Yeah, I posted that today too. I was like, I'm really tired of just like the color blindness.
Mm-hmm.
I know, like, I think sometimes people mean well and maybe they just don't understand. I'm like, but when you do that, what you literally do is you dismiss the experience of a black person in America. Like, it's not the same experience as you. You can't say, oh, brother, I don't see color. Like, no, it exists. And you have to see it, because you can't understand it if you just pretend it doesn't happen, kind of thing. You know, like, I completely agree with that too, and it's difficult. Like, unfortunately, I see it all over my timeline as well.
It's funny because I've actually had to correct some of my peers, like my fellow coworker teachers, who have said that. You know, like I don't see color.
Yeah,
I'm not a racist. And I just said, you know, you gotta understand what you're saying though. It's like you gotta just see diversity as like a good thing. You can't see diversity as like something that's like an obstacle. Like, oh great, now we have like a diversity thing. Now I gotta like figure this out. Like you have to see your students as everyone's got different experiences, different culture experiences, and all stuff like that. Just like look at us right now. Like all of
right.
us have that. You know, it's a tapestry. It's not just, we're not supposed to just be one thing. Like it's a you know, it's a combination of things, and that's what's beautiful.
Right.
Yeah, but a lot of people don't realize that. Like, it's almost weird, right? Because in America we have like all of these World Heritage Days, right? Or even like when you grow up in the school system, there's constantly like these multicultural days. I mean, even for my heritage girls at church, we earned a World Cultural Badge. And I'm like, what's so crazy is we take all of this and we're always striving to like learn about other cultures and appreciate them. And then when it comes down to something that's maybe a little harder to talk about, it's like, oh, I don't see color. It's like, well, no, just see it and acknowledge it, appreciate it, and you know, like, learn to move forward from there. Like,
Mm-hmm.
not seeing it is kind of like turning a blind eye, you know. It's, but again, some people, that's the beauty of this, right? It's like to have that conversation and explain that to someone. And Elliot, to your point, it's like a lot of this is going to be hard because a lot of people don't see everyone the way that God sees us.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like we see people like, that's God's creation, you know, like and I posted it today, like, your blood is my blood, you know what I'm saying? And some people don't see that. Like, some people don't have that. They don't see things in the eyes of God, and that's also very conflicting.
The
I
one
think.
thing.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, like, that's why it's so good that we're talking about this and educating people, because at least like, for I could see a Christian saying I don't see color because they're just trying to say like I love everybody the same or whatever, but the way that's being received on the other end is like, you don't see my problems and you're discrediting the issues that I have. Of course, every race, every person, every family has their own struggles. It's not like because of what's happening now that doesn't discredit your own personal struggle, you know, that we all struggle, but it's like, have respect for what is going on now and do your part in, like, if you don't see color, if you're saying you love everyone, then, you know, get your hands dirty and do your part in getting rid of like what the heck is going on right now.
Yeah, plant the seeds.
You're right.
Like and one thing that we all been speaking about that is extremely important is that, like, people are oblivious to the true hate. You
Mm-hmm.
know, there's people that don't think that is real. They don't think that the issue is real. And I was one of those people. I am 100% Puerto Rican. In Puerto Rico, we are a mixture of Spaniards, Africans, and Taino Indians. If you go to my town in Puerto Rico, which is the beautiful place in Puerto Rico, Villalba, Puerto Rico, there you'll see white, you will see tan, and you'll see black people. And so for me, I grew up in that environment. My father is 100% Puerto Rican, and he's white.
Mm-hmm.
My mother is 100% Puerto Rican. She's black. So for me, like, to me, I was oblivious to it. To me, my brain can't comprehend, how could you not love somebody like someone like my father and,
Right.
and my father's side of the family. And my brain couldn't comprehend how could you not like my mom and her side of the family because of her skin color, you know. And I was 100% oblivious to it. and it wasn't until a couple of years ago, around 2016, when things started to open my eyes to the realities of what is happening, where I started to realize that this hate actually does exist, and it exists extremely hard. And Billy, you have a picture of my mom, right? You want to throw it up real quick?
Sure.
So yesterday, my mother came over to the crib to see her grandson. For those who been following our show, you guys know that I recently just had a new son. His name is Ezrin. And my mother came over to go see my grandson. But everybody in the entire house was sleeping. It seems as if between 1 o'clock and 3 o'clock, the whole house shuts down. Emin is sleeping. My wife is sleeping. Ezra is sleeping. I'm the only one awake working, trying to continue working on my 9 to 5 job. So I went downstairs to take the dogs out, and I saw my mom's car pass by. She was going to bust a U-turn so she could come inside. So I hopped out the house, went to her car and said, "Hey, Mommy, just to let you know that everybody's sleeping. Like, if you could come back later." She said, "No, don't worry about it. I'll just come back another day." And she was like, "What's up, baby? How are you?" And I was telling her, "Mom, I'm upset. I'm upset about the whole situation. Like it makes me so mad that we're in 2020 and this situation is still happening. This racism, this hate, all right, is still happening." And then my mother, she looked at me in my eyes. She grabbed my hand. She calls me Cito. She says, "Cito, this has always been this way." And then my mom said, when I was a little girl, even in Puerto Rico, she says, when I was a little girl, I still remember to this day people behind her back making fun of her because she's Black. And she's in Puerto Rico, a little girl in Puerto Rico,
Mm-hmm.
saying that I remember to this day, even then, that I remember hearing people talk about her behind her back, making fun of her because of her skin color.
Yeah.
And that broke my heart, because she's my mom. You know what I'm saying? Like I came out of her. Like, she is my mother. You know what I'm saying? And it just made me even more upset of the situation that's happening. But where my mom is wrong is that she said, "Oh, this always been this way." It is what it is type situation. And it's not, it isn't what it is. There's ways to combat this. Raul, you are Hispanic, you know but you come from a background where, like, obviously your father is an Afro-Cuban, right? Like, there
Yeah,
are situations where you grew up where, even if you are Hispanic, you felt the hate.
100%, man. I feel that as an Afro Latino, I've had like a unique experience because I've been in rooms with people who are from the same country I'm from and who are very proud of their country, talk bad about Black people, thinking that I was Black. And just hearing that as a kid, I actually still remember, man, there used to be where the Eagle supermarket is right now on Elizabeth Avenue, right across from it, where that Caesar's Pizza is, that used to be a supermarket too. And I remember that was where the experience happened. I was literally standing in line with my mom, and I heard these two Spanish ladies, say racial slurs about me in Spanish. And I remember being like heartbroken, you know what I mean? Because first of all, I'm a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And second of all, I'm like, yo, like, why are they saying these mean things about me, yo? Like, I'm just like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I couldn't comprehend it as a child. Obviously, as I got older, it to me got me angry because I'm like, yo, that's pure hatred that you would take the time out of your day to bash a child because he's Black.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And so that to me is a really it's a really dark thing that exists, man. And even just in the same vein of mothers, I went to go see my mom today, and she gave me a really, really big hug, with her eyes watering. And I said, "Oh, Ma, it's really good to see you. Like, how are you?"
Yeah.
Not thinking nothing. And she told me in Spanish, she was like, my family calls me Joey. They're like, Joey, like, she says, Joey, like, this thing that's happened with this man, she said, has been weighing so heavy on my heart. She said, and I want you to know that I love you. You know what I'm saying? And that to me, bro, is deep because like my experience too. Like I'm gonna end it right here. I'm talking a little too much. I'm passionate.
No, you're good, bro.
no, you're good.
I just wish I see your beautiful face. But we
I
get
know,
that
yeah,
later.
y'all
We get
gonna
that
see
soon.
me.
I just, you know what's so crazy? I'm just picturing your mom saying this, and it's like, just, you know her, right? You know her.
Yeah,
love
I
her.
almost lost it this morning. Just it made me so emotional because I felt the fear in her hug.
Yeah.
I felt the fear in her hug when she hugged me, knowing that I'm a black man and that my life is disposable to some people.
Yep.
And that there's one day that she can never see me again from a basic traffic stop that I didn't put my signal on to make a right turn.
Right.
And so to me, it's like that was something that was really like deep for me. I was like, yo, like, dang, bro, like this is terrible that we have to live in these conditions. Like it's terrible that we have to experience these things. And especially what I was gonna say is my mom. For those of you guys who don't know, my mom is like Leslie's color. She's a really light woman, and throughout our whole lives, man, like she had to deal with it with me. Like people would ask her if I was adopted all the time, which I thought was strange.
Mm-hmm.
But my mom was a little G. She would hold it down like, "No, this is my son." You know, with her Spanish accent. This is my son. What are you talking about? You know what I'm saying? Like she would get upset, but just that experience alone, like imagine like what that does to me as a child,
Right.
but also how heartbreaking that is for her as a mother, to see people literally like disown me to her, like say like, oh, that can't be a child, he's adopted. Like, oh, is that really your kid? Like, really? Yep. And it's like, yes, this is my son. And so, you know, there's just a lot of trauma, man, involved in wearing this complexion. It's a lot of burden that you got to carry and just being black, like just driving through a certain neighborhood. You know, when I drive through Rosedale Park and I drive through Cranford, I have to be extra, extra, extra careful because at any moment I can be pulled over for no reason, which has happened. Like me and my wife have been pulled over literally for no reason, and cops all in my wife's face, like, "Oh, well, what are you guys doing?" And I'm like, "We're headed home." "Oh, all right, all right. Well, have a good night." Why did we get pulled over?
Right.
Like it's got to be because we were black. There was no motive. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, that's just me venting. I don't want to go into any like anger because I don't hate anybody. I just want people to wake up.
Exactly.
You know, and I want people to
to
come to the realization that we're all humans and our experience needs to be respected, but we also need to be treated like we're living, breathing things that have spirits. We sing, we love, we cry, we have children. We're humans, just as you are.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And so that's just something that I just wish the world could understand.
Leslie, you mentioned to us earlier when we were texting before the show that something about your coworker. You want to share that real quick?
Yeah. This hadn't really come up the past few days, but today, my coworker, she's an older white woman. She lives like down the shore. Like she hasn't, had to experience anything like this, right? And we've never talked about this before, but she just like pulled up the picture of the cop, kneeling over Floyd, and she's like, I'm just so sick by this. And she's like, when that whole Kaepernick thing happened, like I thought, wow, this guy really, like, how dare he disgrace the country and the flag and whatever. But she's like, you know what, now I get it. And it took this for me to get it. She's like, because this cop disgraced the country. This cop disgraced the flag. And I just thought it was awesome to hear, because like now it just sucks that it takes something like this to happen for people to wake up.
Yeah.
Why?
I think it's go ahead, Kristen. Go ahead.
I had the same kind of experience because, my family is very conservative. And so when the whole Kaepernick thing happened, they thought like, oh, people don't love America. People like, and it's crazy because my mom is Christian. So like, and I'm saying this because I just want people to open their eyes just a little bit, right? She was saying all of this stuff, and today I was sitting down with my parents, and even my dad was like, I watched that video one time and I couldn't watch it again. and they were like so moved, you know, like how could this keep happening, how could this, and I just looked at them and I was like, but this is the point, like this is why people are doing stuff like that, like this is why everybody is like protesting. And for the first, like, I don't want to say for the first time, because my parents, like, they know what's going on is wrong, but I think for the first time I heard them verbalize it, like, I can't take this anymore. And I don't think I've ever heard them actually say that. And I was just like, thank you, Jesus. Like, open everybody's eyes, because we can't live like this. It's just
Right.
it's like so wrong, you know.
Elliot, you was gonna say something.
I was just saying, like, I was just thinking, like, as we're talking about this, and like, you know, we all know each other and we talk and stuff like that, but it's like, you know, this is the real challenge to a lot of people, and us included too. It's like, you know, you got to look in the mirror at yourself before you look out the window at other people. And what I mean by that is, like, you know, you got to think too, like, going back to like what Raul was saying, and like, I feel you 100% on the like adoption thing. 'Cause my mom is a white lady, and she, you know, was asked that about my sister and I, like, you know, all the time, growing up in Westfield, like, you know, about these, like, her kids adopted. She's like, no. And she had to like, but like, she had to like justify it, which is, you know, like, that's a wild thing to think about. But the thing is that, like, and I was just telling someone about this earlier today, is that, like, it's just sad to say, but like, you can't underestimate like how like destructive bias is in terms of like how you see people, and like how you like look at them as less than you, and how that dehumanizes people, where the point where it's like you don't even look at them like that, like a person anymore. Like, you look at them as like, oh, look at this person, like look at this guy, like, oh, like, forget him, like, you know, this rage. But it's like a rage that goes against them, to the point where it's like you don't even see them as a person anymore. Or like, you know, seeing a Black person automatically as a threat. And that's real for a lot of people. They might not even realize it in themselves, but like, you know, Christina, you and I were talking about this a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
You know, and there is a reality where there's someone sees a person that's not like them and automatically thinks they're a threat. Like
Yeah.
that person is scary. And that's the thing that like it's hard to like take in. But like, I can tell you just my own experience, like as a Black man, like I can tell when someone feels threatened by me. And like, I'll tell you the level of like self-consciousness that I have, where it's like, you know, how I say things, or like the volume in which I say things, or like the expressions I use, or things like that. And it's one of those like, you know, I'm going to be very honest with you guys. When I like meet someone for the first time, I don't always know how to like interact with them, because I don't, it's not like I'm assuming you're a racist or anything like that. But honestly, I don't know how you came up. Like, I don't know how you are perceiving me. So and this bothers me, that like, I feel like this bothers me. It's like, you know, this idea of like, I have to make you feel safe around me before we can be cool. And that's something that's
like, you have to prove yourself in
I
a
have to
way.
prove myself and make sure that you feel safe around me, because I don't want to scare you, because I don't know how you came up. I don't know how you perceive Black people. I don't know how you perceive people who speak other languages. I don't know how you perceive, I don't know what you came up with. I don't know who your parents are. I don't know who your grandparents are, and so forth and so on. So I'm like, all right, let me make you feel comfortable. And then once we're cool. But like, I'd be lying to you if I said that's not in my own life. That's not in my own heart. And I hate that. I don't like that. But that's something that's been built into our society and into our culture. And that's something that we have to confront in ourselves.
Yep. And the core thing about everything, if you really dig deep into everything that is happening, and you look at what's happened with Hispanic community, we're immigrants, we're illegal aliens, we're bad for the country. You know, you look at what's happening with the African Americans, where their life really doesn't matter. Like, we can just kill them. It is what it is. Like, whatever, blah, blah. You see what is happening throughout our country. If you look at the core of everything, if you strip everything down, there's an ugly face that shows, and that ugly face is called sin. And that sin is hatred. Hatred is sin. Hatred is sin. And what I want to transition this conversation to talk about You know, they're like, why does bad things happen in this world? And the bad things that happen in this world is sin. You know, is the evil that started thousands of years ago in the Garden of Eden, that has transpired, that has evolved, and has caused all the evil that has happened on this earth ever since. If you look at all the evil that happened in this world, the Holocaust, you know, the genocide, the murder, that's happening throughout the history of mankind, the killing, the stealing, everything. If it all originates to one simple word, everything is rooted to one simple word, and that is sin. And that is a poison that has been poisoning humanity since the beginning of time. And you know, you guys here that are a bunch of scholars in the Word of God, right? Right. Sin. Why is it such a poison, and how is it being reflected right now? You want to start, Ro?
Definitely. I could start it up. Sorry, let me try to get some of this wind sound.
You good, big boy?
So I mean, I definitely think that sin is something that it can be deeply rooted. Like it's something that could be there that existed for a long time. Like, let's be honest, the fact that people always saying like, oh, like why is this still happening? Why is blah blah blah? Like, bro, that's a deep thought, right? Because you got to remember, bro, like this racism has existed for so long, and still people are being hated because of the color of their skin. Like, that's deep sin, bro. Like, that's a sin that goes deep into the bloodline of people's lives and their families and how they all behaved. And so when you talk about sin, you're talking about things that started years and years and years ago in some people's lives. You know, some of these people who are racist, they are racist. Why? Because their grandparents were racist. You know, and they were racist because their grandparents were racist. And it's just deep also how sin evolves, right? Because I don't want to get too deep, but I'm gonna be authentic. I'm gonna keep it 1,000. You feel me?
Keep it a stack.
If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I'm gonna keep it a stack.
Keep it a
But my
bean.
thing is, it's just funny to me how history shows that, you know, that the European people were very violent people. People who came here from Britain were very violent people. Like I feel like there's just a pattern of violence, but yet there's still this like fear that the black man is gonna do something to you. And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, where did that, like, how did that start? You know what I'm saying? Because if anything, we need to be afraid. You know what I'm saying? Like, we should be terrified. We should be clenching our purses. We should be clenching our babies based off of the history that is factual in this country. Things that actually happen. The black race, the Latino race, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, my whole point about this is, bro, is that sin, not only is it something that's deeply rooted, but it evolves through time and becomes more intricate. Right. That's why when you're dealing with sin in your life, it's something you got to get rid of quickly. Because if you don't, it'll only become more intricate, and it'll grab a hold to more deeper intellectual things in your mind. And that's my point. I don't want to get too deep.
I love you, bro, and it's okay. I don't want to hear you say I don't want to get too deep because that's part of the show, right? Christina.
Yeah.
You're a bio major, right?
No.
Engineering. Chemical engineering, but you know what?
All right.
Same thing.
All right, so like
you went
like
to college
cancer.
all 6 years, right?
Yeah, right.
You're a scientist, right? Yeah.
Like cancer, right? Like cancer.
That's exactly what I was thinking, yo.
If you could pretty much compare and contrast cancer and sin, how would you compare cancer and sin? Like, what is the similarities that cancer has than what sin has? And as a person who actually dealt with cancer or the prospects of it.
Well, it's funny because we all have some kind of cancer in our body, right? Just like we all have sin. And sometimes we don't know about it. We all have cancer is when you just have abnormal cells in your body. Yep. And when they start to replicate and grow into things like tumors and spread throughout your body, that's what really kills you. But we all have cells that have been mutated somehow in our body, right? By the sun, by the emissions that we have from companies, by anything. Every time your cells generate, just think about it. If you just go like this, you knock off skin cells and they're regenerating, right? That's like millions of skin cells every day. And you think out of that entire million, that not one is going to come out messed up. It is. And it's kind of, but you don't know it. And that's how a lot of people walk on this earth. They're full of sin and they don't know it because they're not understanding what sin really is. And then what happens is it starts to grow if you don't nourish your body, right? Like there's ways to prevent cancer, and sometimes there's not. We'll talk about both, but the spread is what causes you to get tumors, to go down that path, and eventually leads to death. And sin is the same thing. If you allow it to grow, if you don't go see a doctor, aka Jesus, if you don't take care of it, if you don't feel.
And ever since sin has been brewing in the hearts of humanity, humanity has been making horrible and extremely bad choices, and that's the biggest problem, you know. And so if we all can agree that sin is the ultimate problem, right? Because the reason why that man did what he did is because of sin. Sin entered his heart, you know, and he decided to do what wasn't right, right? If we all can agree that sin is the issue, right? Then what is the cure? And the cure is Jesus. The cure is God. The cure is the opposite of sin. So if sin is wrong, what is the opposite? The opposite is good. And that is the only thing that could combat the darkness in this world, and that is good. The only thing that could push back the darkness is the light. And the light is the opposite of darkness, which is, and the opposite of badness, the opposite of evil is good. And that's the only way we could finally push out the darkness. And that is goodness. That is the opposite of evil, which is comes from Jesus, comes from God, which is the goodness that God provides. And like there's a Bible verse that I want everybody to Billy, are you able to pull it up? Micah 6:8.
Yeah.
Micah 6:8 says, "He has shown you, O mortal, what is good. And what does the Lord require of you? To act justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God." That's all he asks of you. In this Bible verse is a lot to unpack, but the most important thing is that in the beginning it says that God has shown you what is good. Everybody here that's watching the show, whether you believe God or not, you have seen the goodness that God has provided in your particular life, whether it's life, whether it's shelter, whether it's an opportunity so that you could continue to live, to do well, whether it's a job, or whether it's opportunities for you to be able to live a better life, like have some shelter, some good things. God has shown you all the good things in life. And it's crazy because we always think that God has been so good to us that we owe God the world. Like we owe God something. Like I need to do 1 billion Hail Marys. I need to cut myself to show the Lord God that I love him. I need to like do some crazy stuff to show him that God, and that's not the case. The Lord requires one thing and one thing from us. Well, a couple of things from us. But what he asks from us is to act justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with him. And the beautiful thing about that particular verse is the end part where it says with him, which pretty much states that God is one who acts justly, that God is one who loves mercy, and that God is one who walks humbly. So in order, one thing that God requires from us is to be just like him. And that's to simply love. We live in a world where there's a lot of hate. We live in a world where there's a lot of judging, and prejudice, a lot of racism, a lot of things that are opposite of God's heart. But God calls us to be the total opposite of what is evil. God calls us to be justly, to do what is right. God calls us to be merciful, right? To show mercy to those who don't deserve that mercy. And to walk humbly, to not walk in pride. These are the things that God calls us to do. And I honestly believe that if we all together as a nation, as a community, do all these things, then little by little, the darkness gets pushed back. We become that light that shines in the darkness, that pushes back the evil. We become the difference maker that allows the world to see what the world is supposed to be like. And that's the world with light. And we can do this all with Jesus. We could do this all with the Lord. Anybody want to say something about that?
You know, I
Can I
will.
get a layup?
I I was taking this class in college called race class. It was literally called race class and gender, and it was a difficult class because we talked about a lot of you know, like topics that are very controversial. We talked about like racism, we talked about sexism, all that stuff. And at the end of the course, it's like I had to just ask the teacher, because it's like, well, now what? Like, now that we've learned all this stuff, now that we've a lot of people in this class are upset, now that we've realized like how messed up things are, like what do we do about it? And I think a lot of times that's what kids are asking, that's what adults are asking. Well, what do we do about it? And you know what she said? She said plant a seed. And it's funny because this wasn't like a Christian lady, but that relates so much so, in my opinion, to like what God tells us to do, right? Like plant seeds in people. If you know that there's someone in your family or someone in your group of friends who maybe doesn't understand, just have that conversation with them, you know, like start to close the gap, like build the bridge, literally. Like, you know, hey, maybe you don't understand what's going on right now, but I'm going to explain it to you in a way that you will, kind of thing. Because once we start to do that, because it's like Raul said, right, some of this stuff is generationally built.
Right.
Yeah, the civil rights movement wasn't that long ago. These people are still alive. And so how do we change that? Well, it's like you plant a seed here and that seed grows, and plants a seed there and that grows. And we have to be the light that changes that. We have to break that cycle. And it's not going to be easy, but it's just, well, what do? We plant seeds and we let God, you know, water them and grow them.
Amen.
So a heart that is filled with sin. All right. What can save the heart that is filled with sin? The person that saves the heart that is filled with sin is Jesus. Why? Because he absorbs our sin. He takes away the things that corrupts our heart. He places upon himself, and he died on the cross so that it can be deleted. All right. So my question to you guys, those who are in the panel, whoever decides to answer first, is how can Jesus save those who are angry, who hate for no, you know, for whatever reason, for those who live in sin, who breathe in sin, who lives in sin, that pretty much poisons the entire world that we live in right now?
I think before like we get into that, like it just reminds me of like the 7 like stages of grief. Like it's okay for, we talked about this yesterday too, like it's okay for us right now to feel angry, to feel confused, like I can't believe this is going on. Like it's okay to be in that place, because even like when you start reading the word, like Jesus wept, Jesus was angry, like he flipped tables in the temple, like he felt all these things and he allowed himself to act on it, but he didn't stay there. You know, like he knew that this wasn't right. He knew that this, like we talked about sin being a cancer, like cancer is literally your cells not being what they were designed to be. So when God sees us acting and behaving how he didn't create us to be, once you put yourself in God's hands, and like you said, the light pushes out that darkness, like, and we talked about it last week, this has just been building, like you have to unlearn everything that was taught before, even if it's generational, and the only way that that's done is by the Holy Spirit. Like that there's no way for you to like literally just switch a page and okay, like I don't believe these things anymore. It's literally like God opens your eyes and you start to see things like how he sees them. You start to love people how he loves. That's what I think.
I think that's the number one word is love. I think that's like, you know, it's funny because like I'm gonna throw in like a song reference. It might sound like a funny song reference, but I'm gonna throw it in anyway. It's from Black Eyed Peas. You remember that song, Where's the Love?
Yeah.
Hey, you remember that song? That's a deep.
Where is the love? Yeah,
Exactly.
Where is the love?
JP sang the hook. Remember all that? Anyway, but the thing is that the one verse is there's a couple of deep verses in that song, and one of the lyrics it says, if you never know truth, then you never know love. Okay.
Yep.
And if you think about it, like we're talking about Christ, he said, I am the truth. All right. So like He said that he is the truth. Like truth is not some of this like, you know, like all up in our heads and things like that. It's like it's a living it's a person, right? But then like that makes me think, because like, you know, to know him is to also to know love. And you know, if you love someone, right, if you love, that means that you have seen them with value, right? You've been seen them with like importance. You've seen them like as a fellow human being. And you know, when we look at this hatred and stuff like that, like that's the question, like where is the love? Like where is the love for your fellow human being? Like your fellow, this other guy, this other girl, like where is the love for that person? And if we're talking about, you know, who we know, we're saying that God is love. So we're saying that if you come to really know God, like how you guys talking about before about, you know, I think it was last week was being born again, right? That was the
Yes.
theme. So I caught that episode. And you know, with that is I watched a good show.
Hey.
You better watch a show, bro. If you don't
You
watch a
subscribe,
show,
though?
bro, I'm about to just
Hey,
boot you from this one.
This is gonna be funny. The only episode I missed was the one I had a cameo in without actually showing up. That's the only
Yeah. Elliot.
I watched it immediately after. Anyway, but the thing is that like you do have to unlearn, because you have to know what love really is all about.
Yeah.
Like love is not about just what you can receive, it's what you can give to others people. But you have to be able to see them. You know, some people don't see other people as worthy of loving. They see them as, you know, like we've talked about, like dangerous or like, you know, you're a bad person, or, you know, just because of the way you look or whatever. But I mean, it's love. Like it's love. It's that I'm willing to lay my life down for you because I value you as a human being. Like that's what Christ did for us.
Amen.
That's what he did for us. Like that's what he did for anybody who's a human being. He's a human being himself. He's God himself in one being. And he said, I'm going to die to take all your sin away. And this is my act of love for you.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're going to be one of my disciples, you then have to show that to the whole world. And that's what the church is. Our church is a community of people, all different types of people, bound together by the Holy Spirit, just following the example that Christ, you know, God incarnate, the true human, the Son of God, that's what a human is supposed to be. And that's what church is. And that's what we have to be as believers, as disciples of Christ. We have to be the ones to show the whole world, like, this is what a community looks like, because we're bound in love by God Almighty, because he is love and brought us all together.
Billy, you have a PhD in darkness versus the light. A PhD that you get from the University of Star Wars.
University of Wikipedia.
Wikia.
What are your thoughts on the darkness versus the light? And what is your opinion of the best way to combat the darkness if you are part of the light?
Well, I mean, from a physical, like physical meaning like physics, darkness doesn't even exist. Like darkness is, right. It's not a thing. I mean, it's something you can experience, but it's not a thing you can like actually touch and hold, because all darkness is the absence of light. Like darkness cannot be defined by itself. Darkness is defined by how much not light there is in the room. So I mean, darkness itself is just a void. It's a nothingness. And so I mean, the way that darkness, I mean, when you go into a dark room, it's as soon as you light any kind of light, a light bulb, a match, whatever, the darkness scatters away from the light instantly, because now the light is filling that space where the darkness was. So to push back darkness, which is really just an emptiness, is to bring any kind of light into that situation. One thing I think is interesting, following up with what Elliot was saying about the church being a community, like when Jesus saves us, but he doesn't just call us to follow him just so we can be good people or to go to heaven or something like that. He calls us to make this world a better place, to help other people and things like that, and also to make us the best versions of ourselves that we can possibly be, to live how we were actually created to live from the very beginning. And we've been talking about, I mean, the root of it has been hate, this whole show. So if you really think about it, hate is based out of fear. It's based out of, like, so if you are scared of something, if you are uncomfortable with something, then you'll grow to hate that thing. I think a lot of like the racial tension that has been, like, plaguing the country since before this even was a country is because, those people are different than these people. You see someone like, well, they're not like me, so I don't understand them, so I'm going to eventually hate them. And what's interesting, if you look at like kind of like where we live, not that racism doesn't happen here, because it does, but when we live in like a city where there's like every nationality in the world is like in this area, in the New York area, and so when we're constantly around people who are not like us, and so we're more comfortable with that. So we have conversations like we're having now with people of all different races together, and we're comfortable with each other because we know each other. We have experience with each other. Where if you go to other areas where it's like monocultural, I guess you could say, or monoracial, they've never seen people outside of their race, and so they don't know how to process that. They're scared of what they don't understand, and so they grow to hate that, and they because I don't know, because they're scared of what the person might do, or because they don't know how to act in that particular situation, or they're scared that what they have is going to be taken away from them, or whatever the issue is. And so it's interesting that Jesus calls us to be the church, which is a community. And to be a community, you have to be around people. Like, you can't be like isolated. You have to be around people who are not like you, and that's what the church is. And so if the church is acting the way it's supposed to be acting, there's not going to be hatred in there, because we are together, and we are living together and sharing life together and growing together, and there's a familiarity there, and then that's where love can come from. And so,
Billy, you're speaking facts.
Bro.
Like, I wish I could just drop a bomb for you. Like,
so
it's true, man. It's true. Go ahead.
So I mean, it's just like light pushing back darkness. If you want to combat hate, you have to get close to the people that you don't know, the people that scare you, or the people that you're just uncomfortable with. And once you sit down and have a meal with them, or just hang out with them, or whatever, you're gonna find most of the time that they're not scary like you think they are, and you had no reason to fear them. You have no reason to hate them.
mm-hmm.
Not that you're going to get along with everybody, but you're not going to have that level of hatred that can develop into the racism and things that we see today. Well,
so in order
that
to
we have always seen.
So in order to combat hate, you need to stick with the B, which could be the opposite. So, for example, in order to combat hate, you need to love. In order to combat fear, you need to be brave. You know what I'm saying? And it's one of those things that, in order to push back the darkness, right, which has no type of power at all, it's just the absence of light, right? Which is, in order to push back hate doesn't really fully exist. It's just the absence of love, the love of God inside someone's heart. You need to show the love of God so that they can once again reunite with the heart of God and to be where they're at. And talking about love, there are many people that are watching this podcast either now or are going to be watching this podcast in the future once we get popping. Right? That are hurting, that are going through many things, that are going through situations where they feel like their life doesn't matter. Whether you are a Hispanic who feel like like the reason why I came to this country is because I needed a new opportunity, because the country that I was at was in such turmoil that what I read on TV, what I watch on TV, and what I read in the magazines and the movies, that this is the land of the free, full of opportunities. I want to get into it. I want to be able to experience that, right? Or, the African Americans that are pretty much, this is their land. This is their land as well. They built this land, who are going through a life where they feel as if they're not even being represented, and even the whites, the people who that right now, that their heart and their spirit is 100% for everyone, that they genuinely love, and they don't have these issues that other people are going through, but because they're in the same category, they're feeling the shame that they're feeling ashamed. They're feeling as if, I'm ashamed of the people that I represent, because things are happening, right? What do we say to them? What do we say to those who are in this country, right, or in this world, that feel targeted because of their race, because of their economic, structure, that feel as if they're being alienated? What do we say to them? Bro, what would you say to those who feel like they're being alienated?
I would probably say that the best thing for them to do is to continue to be who they are. If I'm understanding your question correctly, just
Mm-hmm.
support, show love, bro. Like the one thing that was very powerful to me was, and I posted it the other day, was a quote by Dr. King where he says, like, I'm not gonna remember like my enemies and what they said, but I'm gonna remember my friends that stood silent. And for me, it's like if you're a person that's from those communities and you're feeling that guilt, you're feeling whatever, spring into action, bro. Show love. Check in on some people that you know who are African American, who you know this is hurting them right now. Say, hey, how are you? Like, are you okay? What's going on? Like, I was talking with my wife about this, and it's deep because she's been getting so much support. You know what I'm saying? And so many people have been checking in on her and showing her love. You know what I'm saying? And to me, like, I love that. Like, that's how it should be, bro. Like, do your part. Like, show love. If you're somebody who's a part of that community and that's not you, you are woke. You know, Caucasian, you're a woke. What police officer? Like, talk about it. Show love, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like, I love that the police officer came on the other day and spoke about protocol. Like, that was powerful for him to do that. You know what I'm saying? I love that a lot of people from Angie's community back in Michigan reached out to her who aren't black.
Yeah.
Like, that's powerful. They don't have to do that. You know what I'm saying? But that shows us that no, not everybody in the world is like that officer. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I think that that's something that's powerful. I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, man. Yeah, like my thing is for everybody else, because I want everybody to have an opportunity to speak out to those who feel targeted. What word of encouragement would you give them? Ellie, you want to go next?
Yeah, I would just say, what Raul said 100%. And I think it's one of those things where it's like, make your concerns known. What I do see some people think like, oh, like, what can I do about this? What can I do? Like, you gotta, make your concerns known. Like, if you think there's something that's wrong in your community, you think that something that has been ignored needs to come to the light. Even if it's just you need to just realize that it's important to you, and then you need to just go for it. There's a lot of people. It's funny because chances are there's more people that actually do feel the same way you feel, and you're not alone in how you feel. So you need to reach out. You need to talk to somebody. Like I tell my students, as a teacher who's not afraid to talk about stuff, I say, you come talk to me about whatever you need to, whatever questions you have, because it's I'm available to you. And there's always someone that is available to you. You just have to really think to yourself, like, is this really important to me? And if it is really important to me, like, I have to express it, and not express it for the sake of like venting, not just for that, but like for actual change to make a difference. Because, like I said, chances are you're not alone. Chances are you are not by yourself, and there's probably a bunch of other people who feel the same way you do. But there has to be one person though that's going to actually start to talk and start the dialogue and engage other people and bring it up. So I would say that person, you're not alone, number one. And number two, you need to make your voice heard. And there's many different avenues to do that. You can attend meetings in your local government. You can attend meetings at your school board. You can get the contact information for people in your town, mayors, councilmen, etc. There's plenty of churches that are active in this as well. So it's just a matter of like getting that that information, and make your voice heard though. Like, if you think there's something wrong, that's something that you can bring that justice we were talking about into your own community and into your own life. But it starts with you making the step, and there's people that will support you because you're not alone.
Christina?
I think what really spoke to me, like while you were talking, and this scripture instantly came to mind, and Pastor Carlos has been mentioning it so many times at Christ Fellowship, I feel like this year. But there's that scripture that says, the enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy. And right there, when you were talking, you named 3 different groups of people who could all be feeling negative because of all of this, right? Because that's his goal. Everyone has their own narrative, everyone has their own experience, but the truth is that when everything is full of sin, right, when we watch an innocent man get killed live, like recorded, when we watch these things happen, when we see people hurting, when we see all of this, everyone is impacted, and that's what he wants. Like, he's literally coming to steal, kill, and destroy, and we're watching it happen. And I think for anyone who's watching this, and they're all going through their own narrative of this, they're all experiencing their own journey, just remember that he doesn't discriminate, but neither does God. So even though the enemy has this plan, God has a bigger plan for all of us, right? So we can't let all of this just discourage us and make us forget that we serve someone who's bigger, that we've served someone who's already defeated all of this. So Martin Luther King said, hate can't drive out hate, only love can do that. And that's really what we need to hold on to in moments like this. Like, everyone is going to be feeling terrible some way or another, but what we can do is we can just show love to each one of our neighbors, right? It doesn't matter who you are. God said love one another, and to me that's like what always leaves me at peace. Like, when all of this is going on, it's traumatic. Like, let's keep it real, this is traumatic for a lot of people, and it's a lot. Like, especially being on social media this week, like, I was really overwhelmed, and I didn't even want to post anything because I had so many Black friends who I didn't want them to just keep reliving it on my social media. And I was like, but so, like, how do I encourage them, right? And I'm just like, you know what, we're just called to love one another, and to promote that and push that conversation. That's what I would tell anyone that's feeling discouraged. Like, just remember that we serve a God who's bigger, love is greater, and to just hold on to that and be authentic to yourself in that.
Man.
Amen.
Leslie?
The first thing that came to mind to me is just like, you are a child of God. Like, that's just the one thing. Like, we don't know when or if this will ever be fixed. Like, we can pray and we can love and everything, but I can't sit here and promise you that one day you're going to wake up and this isn't going to be a fear, this isn't going to be like something that's real, that's something you should be scared of. But you remember that you are a child of God. And I had this memory pop in my mind. I always have these memories with Raul, but I walked into worship practice one time, and I was like kind of like down, I guess, that day. Like, I walked in like kind of like this, like, your posture, like, your shows like how you're feeling or whatever. And then he like didn't have to say anything to me. He just went like this, like, stand up, like, remember who you are. So that's it. You are a child of
Love
God.
you,
No
homie.
matter, I love you too. No matter what is going on around you, no matter how real, like, what you're feeling is real. It doesn't make it right. It doesn't make it like true what people say or how people are treating you. No matter what race you are. This is horrible because it's happening to another human being. Period. You know. Um, so I don't know when this is gonna happen. I just know that you find out who you are, and you wake up every morning, and every moment remind yourself that you are a child of God, that you have a plan, you have a purpose for your life, and that's really all that matters. Till your last breath, you are a child of God.
Amen. Amen. Did I miss anybody?
Billy.
I mean, I guess if you're looking at the situation and it's making you angry, as it it should. It's a angering situation. I mean, that's a valid emotion to feel with it, but you don't want to get so lost inside of that it becomes your own hatred. That causes that because when you get into that part, you're gonna do things that you regret. You're gonna end up hurting yourself even more. So you want to take that anger that you're feeling, and it's kind of like what Elliot was saying. You want to apply it to something positive, something that's going to make a change, something that's going to help people. Like, do something about it. Don't just let it sit there and turn into bitterness inside of yourself, because that's not going to help anyone. It's actually going to hurt yourself and someone else. So embrace if all these things that have been happening, really affecting you, then embrace that and do something about it. I don't be creative with like how you express it, but don't let that eat away at your own soul, because then that you're not helping anyone and you're actually hurting yourself. Because if you give in to hatred, then really you're not any better than the people that were making you angry in the first place. You might be expressing it in a different way, maybe not as a violent and dramatic way, but the root of it is exactly the same sin. and so you don't want to become the thing that was making you upset in the first place. So use it and do something positive with it.
Every time I go to food shopping, I feel like God speaks to me when I go food shopping. It's weird. And it's odd. It really is. It's the weirdest place that God meets me, but he meets me in the
Food speaks to me too.
But I remember when back in 2016, right? After a certain situation happened, I remember going to the supermarket and here in Elizabeth and just watching all the Hispanics, people who work there. I remember going to, and just looking at their faces. And they had the face of despair. They were afraid of what the future held for them. I remember, like every time I would go to like the pizzeria that I always order my pizza from, Proud Papa's, best pizza in Union.
Yo, word.
And I just remember like looking back at the people who were working in the back room, going to the diners that I used to go to, and looking at the people who were working in the back and just their face full of fear, legit pure fear. And afraid of what the future may come for them, afraid of what life can be in their own personal lives. And I saw this, I haven't seen it in a while, but I saw it again today. Today I went food shopping to get a bunch of stuff for my family. And in the, in the shop right that I was in, I kept looking while I was walking. I don't know if it was in my mind, because my mind is already in a place where, like, because of the whole situation, but I was looking at every person that, that is a color, that is like me, right? I was looking at their faces, and to me, they had the face of, like, it was semi, like, they were like afraid, and then like a face of like they're upset, a face of anger, but they had to keep face, because of the situation. And I remember, like just asking a guy, hey, listen, do you know where the formula is? I'm looking. He said, look, brother, it's over there, blah blah. And I said, hey, thank you, man, I appreciate you, I love you with all my heart. He said, yo, I love you too, beloved. And I was like, stay safe. He said, you stay safe too. And it's like, it makes me happy, and it hurts me at the same time that, that we have to speak that way to one another. And and I just pray, like, like for those who, who are Hispanic, that are Bridge Youth kids that are Hispanic, that don't have legal parents, that they may not be legal themselves, and they feel like they're the outside looking in. Let me tell you something, man. There's a God that loves you with all his heart. There's a God who loves you tremendously, who knows everything about you, who looks at you with such a love that is it's unimaginable. I can't even come up with the way to describe his love for you. For those who are, for the African Americans, for those of color, whether you're African American, whether you are Caribbean, whether you are from Africa itself, whether you are, Latin American, with African descent, when you're looking at the TV and you're looking at your own dying day all the time, over and over and over again, over things that shouldn't have happened, and you feel like as if that you're just another piece of platter that is set up for the meat market to die and all that stuff. Let me tell you something. There's a God who literally died for you. Mm-hmm. There's a God who died for you, who he took the L. He took the bullet. He did everything he can to make sure you are able to live forever. There is a God who died for every single one of us. And for those who want to do right, no matter what race you are, you could be black, white, Hispanic, anything, Chinese, Asian, anything. You are looking at this show and you may feel like you're in the outside looking in. And let me tell you something, that's everybody. African Americans, people that are of color, they feel like they're targets they're targets in a shooting lane, right? Hispanic, they feel like they're a bunch of weirdos, aliens that don't belong anywhere. Whites, Caucasians, people that are from here, that are from there, Europe, they feel as if they're automatically put into this stigma of hate and hatred when they don't even have that type of feeling, towards anybody. and Asians, even now with this whole thing that's happening right now, the world looks at you as the virus, but you're not the virus. Let me tell you something. God loves you with a passion that goes beyond understanding, to the point where if you are the only human being that will live, and Jesus will still come down down to earth and die on the cross to eliminate that sin that is inside your heart. And that is the most powerful thing on earth. He came to restore every single one of us, right? And he came to restore every single one of us. And the way he restores every single one of us is the opposite of sin. The opposite of hate is through love. And he loved us so much that he literally died and paid the price so that we can become free. And I believe that if everybody, whether you're black, white, Hispanic, Asian, Indian, whatever, black, white, purple, green, orange, blue, purples, whatever color in the entire crayon box, right? God did everything so that you can be the light in this world, that you can be the love that he created us to be. And I just encourage everybody who's watching this show, man. Obviously, we all are triggered right now with hate right now. We all triggered right now with discouragement and sadness that is happening in this world. What is happening, and we are called the great nation, right? The nation of God. Yet we demonstrating everything that is the total opposite. Let me tell you something, man. The only way to stop this darkness is to shed light. And the way you shed light is to be the man of God or the woman of God that God created you to be. Is to be the light in this world, to be the light in this this darkness. And that starts with you. Simple things. Hugging one another, loving one another, encouraging one another. When I was in the store, I was in ShopRite. You know how many people how many Hispanics I said while I was walking down looking for formula, when I was looking down looking for applesauce for my son because he's an applesauce fiend. When I was going down, when I was going down the shopping lane looking for potato chips because my wife is potato chip fiend.
She is.
Yes. Every Hispanic that I saw, I told them I love you, right? And we're gonna get through this. Every African American I saw, I love you. We're gonna get through this. And every white person I saw, every Caucasian person I saw, I say, yo, I love you, and we're gonna get through this. And that's the way we fix everything. We fix everything through love. We don't fix anything through hate. If we are hating, if we are being exactly what hate is towards the other person, we're literally just creating a big giant volcano that is going to explode and destroy everyone, every single one of us. The best way to fight hatred is to love, aka the best way to fight darkness is to shed that light. And I pray that everybody who's watching the show, whether you're watching the show now or you're watching the show in the future, that you spread love, you spread light. And I promise you, by us doing so, we would change the world little by little through the Lord Jesus Christ, who is to come. That's the way we do it, yo. That's the only way. Any final words from everybody before we end this beautiful show?
Amen.
I got one thing.
Go ahead, big bro.
Make it real quick and easy, man. To all my beautiful, beautiful black people, brown people, people of color, I just want you to know that you're loved. You're absolutely beautiful. The burden of having to explain your culture and your value is not on you. It is on the world to understand you and to love you. And I just want everybody to know, whether it be a Bridge Youth, whether it be an adult who's listening and watching, I love you. I am proud to be black. I love my skin color, and I want you to do the same with yours. You're beautiful.
Amen.
Anybody else? Christina, last words.
I love you guys. You know what? I've just been telling everybody on Instagram this week that I love them. Like, I have people that hit me up that I've probably never talked to in my life, and they're like, "Yo, thanks for posting this," and I'm literally like, "I love you." And then I'm like, and then I'm looking back at it, and I'm like, "Oh my God, they're gonna think I'm a freak." But literally, that's exactly what I'm writing because I love you. I love every one of you guys. I love everyone who's watching, and Raul said it all.
Mr. Johnson.
Listen, God sees you, God knows you, like we were talking about. God loves you, and God has not forgotten you. God has not forgotten any single thing that has ever happened, and justice comes and justice will come. And we put our faith in God, And I know sometimes people think God is slow, but as the scriptures say, he's not slow the way that we understand that slowness to be, but he doesn't want anyone to perish. He doesn't want anyone to pass on without knowing the truth. God leads us all to the decisions that we make, and God wants us to all do the right thing, just like the verse from Micah 6:8 we were talking about. All right, justice, mercy, and walking humbly with God. And God is here. It might seem sometimes like, where is he? You know, this so dark. I don't see no light around or anything like that. But God is here, and he'll always be here. And God stands with those who are brokenhearted. God stands with those who are oppressed. God stands with those who are hurt. God stands with those who are sick. He's here, and he calls those who love him and are called according to his purpose. He calls us to be servants in this world and to show that love to every single person, no matter what they look like, no matter where they're from or anything like that. But the main thing is that God is here. God is here. It might not seem like it sometimes, the anger and everything like that you hold, give it to him. Trust me, God does get angry with injustice.
Yep.
He does get angry with injustice, and don't you ever forget that, because he stands with justice, because it's his justice that he rules with. So God is here, and he's not going anywhere.
Oh, I know your beautiful wife is next to you. I just wanted to ask her if she could hear me. What do you want to say for those who feel like they're on the outside looking in?
For those that are in the outside looking in, I would just say keep being who you are, keep being a beautiful person of color, keep allowing your voice to be heard as well. Don't allow these situations to silence you or make you feel like your voice doesn't matter. Your voice does matter. Keep making noise, keep telling people that you are valuable regardless of what they respond, regardless of how they treat you. Just know that you are supposed to be on this earth. You have a great purpose on this earth. God has a beautiful plan for you, and there's nothing that anybody on this earth can do to stop God's plan for your life.
Amen.
Right.
Man. And Leslie?
It's just very similar to what Elliot was saying. Like, all this stuff that we're saying definitely sounds easier said than done. But just don't lose hope. And I know right now that sounds like so cliche and so like impossible, because I don't know what you guys are personally feeling, but just don't lose hope. All this seems like love seems so weak, but it's actually the strongest tool that we have. So even though you feel powerless right now, or that feels like something so cliche and so weak, just fight that fight. That's all I gotta say.
Amen. Billy?
You guys have said it all. Just go out there and be candles in the darkness.
Wow. That's it. That was great.
And guys, we end the show with that. Like, right, guys? Just be the candles in the darkness. We live in a stark situation. If you are the light, if every single one of us becomes that light and shows pure love in this dark situation, I promise you that the light of God will shine in through us, and that not everything will be changed forever. So thank you every single one of you guys for tuning in the show. We love you guys. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this show, especially this one. Like, this is something that it's not only for the youth, right? It's for the entire world. Share this, okay? Let the world know, let the world see where the heart of God is. And I love you guys with all my heart.
We do have one other announcement though. We got to do.
Oh, huge announcement, Billy. Why don't you say it?
So you probably know we've been doing the Bridge at 20 segment every episode except for this one all year, because this is the Bridge's 20th anniversary. Well, next week actually is the 20th anniversary of the Bridge. It was June 2nd, which I think is a Tuesday, I think. So June 5th is going to be our 20th anniversary show, and it's going to be a special show. So we actually are going to have special guests, a whole special panel that's going to be on here, which is going to be the 4 original Bridge founders. Like, the 4 original leaders in the Bridge from the year 2000 are going to be here for the entire show, and they're going to be sharing stories from the very early days of the Bridge, from before there even was a Bridge. And it's going to be a really great show. We're excited to hear what they had to say, and we hope that you tune in next week because it's going to be a really special show and be a lot of faces from the past coming back to visit us. So,
Amen.
Amen. Oh, so we're just so thankful that you guys tuned in to talk about this, and I know this is a very heavy subject, but like we said, just keep being that candle in the darkness, and we love you so much. Don't let this situation change you, but actually, yeah, let the situation change you. Let the situation change you. Like, be better, think better, pray harder, and that's it. We love you so much, and we hope to see you next Friday. Peace out.